In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the basics of integrating physical training into your firearms training or tactical training, whatever. So what I see is a lot of people who are unfit and trying to, handle firearms. Maybe they do CrossFit, but they're still unfit for firearms because, I'm sorry, but your workouts are not actually building the specific motor units that are being used for the task that you're doing. A lot of workouts that people are doing are very general, and they're more based on trying to aesthetically build the body instead of, functionally build it for a specific task. So when we're talking about fitness, fitness is defined as being physically capable for a specific task. So using fitness in a general sense is kind of like saying that that person is tactical. Like, what does that even mean? Are they tactical for the desert? Are they tactical for, maritime operations? Or, are they tactical as in, police operations or whatever? It's a very general term. So when we're talking about fitness as far as firearms training, then we are fit to actually conduct those things in our motor units, and our brain processing power is specifically nurtured to be maximized in that kind of realm. Now I do believe that we're at near infinite possibilities as far as like our ability to nurture our body and develop it. It just depends on how much time you can commit and how you conduct a work recovery cycle. So for example, one thing I would recommend for people trying to develop a skill or are relatively new or just trying to refine a skill and revisit, I would recommend conducting what I call reinforcement training at the end of the training cycle, like once you're done. Now, the reason I call it reinforcement training is you're specifically working on the skills, on the specific motor units that were a little bit weak, or not necessarily weak as in strength, but maybe they don't have the speed, or maybe there's just a lag in coordination. So there's specific workouts that can be done in order to, maybe they don't have the endurance. So there's different workouts that you can do to reinforce those capabilities and reinforce those motor units and be able to perform that task by having that muscle support or that tendon support or nervous support or whatever, that endurance, that stamina. So another thing is, at the end of your workout, you're able to identify those things if you're being self-aware. So if you're doing a lot of reps, you may notice, okay, my shoulders are feeling it, or my wrists are feeling it, and just doing that forward torquing motion and that pinch, doing everything together is actually kind of hard. Or maybe you have a tired trigger finger. That's something you can actually develop and strengthen. But I'm not going to get into the specifics on how to do it, but it is absolutely possible. We're just talking about the awareness part and the time set. But anyways, so that's my recommendation for actual training. So you're trying to identify any weaknesses, and you're trying to get your body used to that unnatural movement, because pretty much everything we do is unnatural. So we're not going to be able to CrossFit our way to success when it comes to firearms. You are going to be using an unnatural combination of motor units that are not used in everyday life. Some people are like, well, you're using your shoulders to shoot. Yes, but you're not using your shoulders, your wrists, and incredible self-discipline to move one finger over all the others in everyday life. There is not really any task that I can think of that is that specific on self-control and motor unit combination control. So you need to isolate the movement in all the fingers except for one, or you need to hold it out completely still. You need to isolate all the movement in these while conducting a very hard isometric hold for one-handed shooting, and you need to have complete focal sensitivity, or a complete focus and peripheral sensitivity, and you need to hold a stable position. And so you also need to keep awareness. So it requires a lot of self-awareness, proprioception. It requires a lot of situational awareness. You need to have awareness of your surroundings. You need to have good working memory. You need to have the ability to anticipate things, to calculate things. You need to do a lot of things that are not normal in everyday life, and even in a lot of different hobbies. So firearms training is a very unique thing that we need to cater its own. We need to give it its own physical training, really. So I don't doubt that there's going to be people that are going to be able to write books about this in the future once they like figure this out. Heck, I might just do it myself. But anyways, with that said, like if you're trying to test yourself, one thing that I would recommend is what's called I would call it in between training. So say you're doing draw drills with a dry fire part timer. So you have a part time of a second and a half to draw your firearm, and you have a rest cycle of like 8 seconds. So that's typically what I have, and I'll do like 20 reps in a row, and it'll beep when it's time to go, and then it'll beep again when that second and a half is up. So I need to be within that time window. And it's based on integrity, and sometimes I'll add in my laser to keep myself honest if I think that I'm really, hot shit that day. So it'll call me on my BS if I'm not. So what I'll do in between those reps, after I actually holster the gun properly and I conduct scans and stuff like that, I will actually do a burpee as fast as I can, readjust myself, and actually get in a ready stance. Maybe it's depending on what I'm training that day, it could actually be a ready stance like this, or it could be, just hands at the side, kind of the surprised draw drill, if you will. Or like a defensive posture, or surprised posture, or non-defensive posture. So anyways, rested, I guess. English. So anyways, for that, doing like training in between and doing training beforehand to stress out the body and to actually kind of set yourself at a disadvantage would actually be a good idea, because you're trying to test those concepts. If you can actually apply all that self-discipline and you can apply all that control over yourself despite having all these physical inhibitors, you're going to probably be shaking from doing a lot of upper body work or even lower body work. Your stance may be a little bit unstable. If you're going to be doing combination things, your brain's going to be a little distracted by all the hormone releases from that exercise, from that exhaustion and anxiety from, wanting to perform. So exercise can be a great way in between your drills to actually test yourself, and doing stuff beforehand to put yourself at a little bit of a disadvantage. So, and then after that, you can kind of spot some weaknesses, like maybe coordination issues. Maybe it's something you need to work on in your working memory under stress. Maybe it's something to do with transitions, being a little more precise under stress for target transitions. So moving target to target under stress. Could be coordinated movement under stress or under exertion. So there, you can find out more as you're developing your training and incorporating physical training. Incidentally, you're opening up the spectrum of your capability and awareness of your capability by adding in physical training. So I am a very big advocate of adding physical training to your firearms training. I don't believe that you can have the latter without the former. So, with all that said, let me know what you think about this in the comments below, and you guys have a good one.